was willing to speak out. I think these work a little bit better if we share some ideas too. So, so please feel free to turn on your camera if you're comfortable, but definitely feel free to speak up. All right.
Awesome. And Tim, is Trinity going to help you monitor the chat, or would you like my help?
Actually, that would be great. Trinity, if you didn't mind doing that, then Laura, you can do what you have.
I think I saw her pop on here somewhere.
Yeah, I'm here. I can.
Oh, there you are.
That.
You just got lost in my tiles.
Right.
Okay, well, with that, we can get started if the both of you are ready to go. Tim, I think you're good to be able to share your screen.
Yeah, I'll share my screen and let me just make sure I do this correctly. This is
okay. Yeah, no problem. Again, this is Balsam Brands here to present on resumes and how to tailor your resume to the job description. So it should be a good discussion. Tim and Trinity, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here.
Great. Yeah, my pleasure. Does everyone see, did I get the right screen here? Does everyone see the screen?
Yep, there just aren't words on the screen yet.
Okay, that works.
Okay, so perfect.
You see some highly realistic Christmas trees in front of you. Okay, nice to be here, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started, and then we have a couple of intros at the beginning. So my name is Tim Lessler. I'm from Balsam Brands. I'm guessing at least a few of you have heard of us, given we are right in downtown Boise. And we're going to be chatting today on decoding the job description and on updating your resume. All right, so just a quick introduction. My name's Tim. I'm the recruiting director at Balsam Brands. My education, I have a bachelor's from UC San Diego and poli-sci, and I have a law degree from Vanderbilt University. I do not practice law, and I really love what I do in the recruiting world, and I've been in the recruiting world actually since 2012. My recruiting background is I'm the director of recruiting here. We recruit in Boise, in Redwood City, in Dublin, Ireland, to be clear, there are other Dublins here I know, and in Manila, Philippines. About half of our team is in Manila. We have a small but mighty team in Dublin, Ireland that has basically doubled this year, which is fun. And of course we have many teammates already in Boise and in Redwood City. Before that, I helped some tiny startups in Silicon Valley fill roles as a consultant. So I got my start in recruiting and loved it, had a ton of fun. Then I joined eat24.com. I don't know if any of you ordered food from there back in the day, one of the early food delivery companies. I was the first recruiter when we were about 40 teammates, and I exited after they were acquired by Yelp in 2015. So that's my background and my professional background. Some fun facts: I'm a violinist in a local community orchestra. I'm here in the Bay Area, by the way, so I'm calling from Sunnyvale, California. And I also lived in a Czech Republic village for a year. All right, we'll move next. And Trinity, you can introduce.
Hi, everyone. I'm Trinity Castro. So I'm actually here in our Boise office, so local. I'm a recruiting analyst here. And my education, I got my Bachelor's of Science from Purdue University, and I was a business major, and I specialized in hospitality management. I started in hospitality once I graduated college, but got my foot in recruiting when I started at Aerotech shortly after, and I spent 2 years there in staffing and agency recruiting. And I actually recently just joined Balsam in March of this year, so it's been about 8 months right now, as I wanted to go more into the internal recruiting route. So been loving it here so far. A fun fact about me is I'm a certified sommelier, so I'm not a wine snob, as some people would say, but I do enjoy learning about wine and where it comes from and the different cultures.
Awesome. Thanks, Trinity. All right, so Balsam Brands. Some of you, if you haven't heard of Balsam Brands, may have heard of Balsam Hill. Balsam Hill is our flagship brand. And we have, since the beginning of Balsam Hill, which predates me by several years, to specialize in artificial and highly realistic Christmas trees. Since then, we have expanded into other holiday decor, and we've also become much more cross-seasonal. It's a very interesting business challenge, of course, in that when we started, we were extremely seasonal. So our forecasting, of course, was extremely important, and we have some very, very sharp folks on the team. But now, of course, we're developing more of our cross-seasonal business. And also Treetopia is another one of our brands where you have more, not that Balsam Hill trees aren't fun, but Treetopia trees are a lot more colorful too. We are mainly e-commerce. So you can check out balsamhill.com if you are looking to buy things for the Christmas or holiday season, which is really exciting. And we are also international. We sell in a few countries in Europe and also in Australia, as well in the United States. I should note too, if you visit a Nordstrom store, you may see some of our products at Nordstrom's now, which is fun. And we have a partnership with Nordstrom. Okay, so today we're going to talk a bit about the why behind tailoring your resume, about decoding the job description, and then a little bit about how to tailor your resume. So we're going to start by doing a quick exercise. So I'm going to give you two quick scenarios here, and I want, so we can get our brains going. Not that they weren't going before, but let's see. And feel free to, I think we might use chat for this. I was going to say we can just speak out, but I guess it's a little awkward with this large of a group. So you can use chat and go ahead and type in any thoughts that come to mind. And the exercise is this. So let's say that I am the CEO and founder of a small startup. And this startup sells a new type of nonstick pan. I actually just came up with that. I made an omelet this morning, and nonstick pans are the best for making omelets. So let's say we have a brand new nonstick pan, and we want the first hire that's going to handle all customer support issues. Very, very first hire. We're a tiny company. We can make up a number. Let's say we have 6 employees now, or 10, right? So 10 or less. And let's say we're coming to we're open to someone straight out of university, but we're pretty open on who we hire. What are things that I, as the CEO, will look for in the candidate? So again, feel free to type into your chat. What are things, and this could be all over the board. What are things I'm looking for? And I need to figure out how to find where the chat is, I realize. So, 1 second. Are people typing in chat? If you are, I actually, okay, there we go. There it is. Okay, I found the chat. Great. Okay, let's see. Okay, we have communication skills, personality, interesting. Customer service training, self-motivated, customer service, hard work and effort, past experience, experience in education, determination, experience in soft skills, teamwork, problem solving, great customer service, confidence. I like the confidence. Ability to work with others, eagerness, education, problem solving skills, dependability, previous experience. Okay, good. And we'll stop here. So thank you for your answers. And it looks like I think all of these are right to some extent. Oh, we have someone who may have worked in commercial kitchen to promote and explain how to use a product. That was from Lauren. Great. Yeah, and then we have the product knowledge. Okay, sounds good. So there are some keys in this scenario here. Well, okay, before we talk about that, let's do the second one. So it's same exercise, okay? Now let's say I am the hiring manager. I'm a manager at a giant e-commerce company. Maybe that company is named after a river. I don't know. But let's say we're a giant e-commerce company and we're looking to hire a teammate for our core business on the customer service team. And we are looking at, we're open to hiring a new graduate. or we're open to hiring. We're pretty open, but we're open to entry level basically. What are we looking for? So same question, go ahead and type into your chat. Again, same question, maybe even same type of role, very large e-commerce company. What are you looking for? Tech-based education, technology skills, knowledge about the company. Good, yeah, tech skills. Good experience and work in the field. Yeah. Tech skills, specific skills in the field, motivation. All right. Anything else? I'll give another like 20 seconds here. Problem solving, experience, interest in the field, ability and determination, catchy resume, critical thinking. Yeah, great. Communication on the phone and chats, communication. Yeah, I think we were seeing communication, I think, on both ones. Okay, and we can stop here. Great, so thanks everyone. Yeah, let's discuss quickly. I think we saw some similarities in the two different scenarios. One would be communication. I think some folks put experience. Some things that might exist for the CEO, and I saw things like soft skills. There might be something like scrappiness or ability to flex extremely quickly, right? Willingness to clean the sink in the kitchen at the end of the day. Thinking outside of the box, willingness to fail, right? I'm not saying those don't exist with the large e-commerce company, but those are things that might be highlighted. And here's another one, maybe a certain type of scrappiness that exists if a person, for example, worked in customer service for a couple of years while they were in high school or in university, right? Ability to move extremely fast and handle multiple things at the same time. And that may look differently at the startup than at the large e-commerce company. So at the large e-commerce company, a couple of things I didn't see maybe were alignment with the company values. Those company values have likely been established already by that large company. Some companies might call them leadership like leadership principles, and a knowledge of those, a knowledge of the history of that company. I think I saw a knowledge from the company. Willingness and to quickly follow directions and understand directions. Ability to work cross-functionally with multiple teams. And those are different than at the startup. So I think you're saying we're already kind of getting a little bit into the why behind tailoring the resume, but that same person who graduated with one degree, who's applying to two different roles, will absolutely want to have two different resumes for the large e-commerce company and for the startup. Okay, so we'll move on here. Anyone have any questions? Okay, we'll continue. All right, tailoring the resume. So why do we tailor the resume? So we have the job description, and I think part of my goal today, and I think that, which is something that a lot of people in applying don't do enough, is to have the applier or the candidate, for you, right, listening here, have empathy for what's going on the other side. That's extremely key in creating your final resume. Sometimes I see, I'm getting rejected from all these different companies and the system's broken and all this type of stuff. Well, the truth is there's something going on by humans trying to make their best decision on the other side. Not always the best, they don't always make the best decision, but they have to make a decision. They have to bring someone on, and then there are discussions or things going on in the background is, okay, so what are the really key things that we want to bring on here, for this role? And then the only way they can make that initial decision is through the resume. Then they'll use the interview process for later. But that's kind of where you want your starting point to be, as you click send on the resume, is, have I thought through that, right? one signal or one communication sent by the employer is, and one of the main ones, of course, is through the job description. The job description is the marketing piece for that role, right? And it's also the checkbox in a way for the skills and qualifications that are needed. So job description says these are the skills and qualifications we're looking for. And a generic resume says this is all the experience I have. I will leave it up to you to decide if I'm qualified. And a tailored resume says this is where I've gained and developed each of your acquired skills and qualifications. So one little hint is for a lot of companies, the recruiter's job during the sourcing phase and when we have inbound candidates, I've seen this in a couple of articles recently, and it's true. Recruiters are not almost never, unless they're hiring for their own team, the one who makes the decision if we hire them, right? But they are usually an inflection point in the process. And one of those inflection points is with the initial resume screen. And oftentimes for high volume recruiters, the initial resume screen occurs very quickly. It might be seconds. Hopefully it's minutes, but the initial one might be seconds. And for an initial recruiter in a high volume environment, right, where like lots of people are applying, when a resume comes in, that it almost like, with genuineness, matches up to the job description very, very well for the meat of the resume. It's a very nice experience for that recruiter. It makes it very easy to move that person to the next round. Okay. If we have a resume where we have to, with a microscope or with, I don't know what the right tool would be, we have to like a puzzle, we have to keep looking and finding where, oh, I think I found it there. This is kind of hidden in here. The chance of that person moving forward, especially when there are other qualified folks who did tailor the resume, becomes more, you've lowered your chances of having that move into the initial screen. And in the initial screen or the initial interview is where you can really shine and do your research and everything. But you don't want the resume to be the sticking point. So this is key, is tailor your resume to fit to the skills and qualifications of the role. Great. So you want to align with the job description and the skills, means a higher chance of callback for the interview. And it makes you stand out for generic resumes. I'd probably say most resumes, and it might be by far, it might depend on the position, but most are generic, and a shocking amount don't write cover letters as well. So just by tailoring your resume and by writing a cover letter where you talk about why you want to work for that company, even briefly, it will very, very likely for most places you apply, put you already in the top 50% of applicants and give you a very good chance of moving forward. I should say a much better chance. It depends on, if there's 1,000 resumes and they can only hire one person, maybe there's a very, very low chance in the beginning. So I should note that. Good. And then it'll also help you in the interview. If you have a very good and tailored resume, of course, the recruiter will see it at the beginning. It's usually a recruiter, someone who works on the recruiting part. But your resume is going to get passed around to everyone who interviews you at all different levels of the company if you make it far. So you also want that in mind. One is the ease of reading for a quick look and the quick first screen to get you past, but also second is it is also ready for the deep dive by the teammates who are actually going to make the decisions. Okay, good. We'll move to decoding the job description. Again, we'll leave time for questions at the end. So we'll move into the slide here. And I hope everyone's seeing the same thing I'm saying. Okay, good. Yeah, I'm quite sure that's the case. Okay, good. So when we read through the job description, just the marketing tool for a good job description is basically a good marketing tool, both for the role, but for the company as well. You should be looking for keywords or themes that are used, especially ones that are repeated or used a few times. Know what is desired and what is required. So this is actually key. And having worked with many hiring managers, and again, I'm going to try to put you in the shoe of the person who's hiring. Okay. So a lot of managers, they'll write a job description, right? Or maybe they'll write like a requisition for a role. And in that requisition, they have, 10, 15 things that person wants. When it comes down to it, it's oftentimes those will include tools that person needs to know, maybe some technologies they know, some what we call soft skills, as you could probably guess, or I don't know if any of you have managed before, but as you can probably guess, we'll almost never find a person who has all of them, right? So some compromise needs to be made at some point, and then a good hiring manager, a good manager will be able to figure out what is necessary, because there may be things that are absolutely necessary in this role that you can't, there's no way you can give on. One would be, for example, a person who's working in a certain part of a PR or maybe in some communications team, they have to be an absolutely excellent writer. And there is no, if a person is not an excellent writer, that person will not, that is a red flag, that person will not be moving forward, period, right? And then you have other things, and one common one would be like Excel, or learning a new coding language when that person already knows a couple of coding languages, or tools are pretty common, but basically things that are learnable. And it's often that candidates will not have 100% of what the hiring manager knows. So then it's great for the manager then to go through the exercises. Okay, what can then that person learn on the job, right? So I'm letting you know this because then for you to, if you can decipher between those two, and sometimes it's by implication, you look at the job description and you read what is that person going to do. So start with that, and then you can probably tell in kind of the skills list, a lot of them have skills lists, which ones are absolutely necessary. Make sure that is in your resume, that is implied in your resume. Then if you don't have all the rest, you may want to also imply how fast of a learner you are. I'm not saying you write down, I'm a really fast learner, but imply that through other things you've done in your career, okay? Good. And then another thought here is get hints about the company culture and customize appropriately. I like using, I think the cover letter. And I know I've mentioned cover letter a couple times here. Yes, write a cover letter. Maybe not all companies use them or not, but a lot of what you're trying to do at the beginning stage of an application is to raise your chance of getting to the first interview. And by not using a cover letter, you are, unless you've heard something that this company doesn't read cover letters, you are likely, right? If you don't know whether a company actually looks at the cover letter, whether they do or they don't, by not having a cover letter, you have reduced your chance of getting to that first screen. So you should probably place your bets on writing a good cover letter. And the cover letter really, we on the hiring side and at Balsam Brands, we love seeing why people want to work for Balsam. So by not writing a cover letter, you've missed a great opportunity to show that right at the beginning. But anyways, use the cover letter for that chance, but also during the, in the resume, right? One part of Balsam Brands is building relationships. That's one of our values, right? So there probably should be things in your, spreading joy is another, right? So there should be something in your resume that shows things that go towards that value, right? Likely in relevant things that you've done for the job you're applying for. But let's say we, with ours, we want to let's say, pursuing excellence and build relationships are, you know, a couple of our values. And there may be some volunteer thing you did in the past that goes towards those. And I would absolutely recommend getting that onto the resume as well. Not, you know, so sometimes I get the question, should I put things that are not directly relevant to the role onto the resume? My answer is, well, figure out what the company's values are for, and absolutely yes. And in general, I would lean towards yes. If doing something that's really a part of who you are, and you want to work for a company where it's like, let's say you, you know, you worked at you volunteered at an animal shelter for a while, and that's really a part of who you are, and you want to work for a company that values the fact that you worked at an animal shelter, then absolutely get that onto the resume. Okay. Anyways, I'm bouncing around a little bit, but you know, going towards company culture, you want there to be a match with who you are, right? And you want to be additive to that company culture. So there should be hints on the resume that go towards that. All right, so this is, let's see here. This is a job description from Balsam Brands. If you want to take a look at here, and just quickly, we'll take about another 30 seconds or a minute. If you want to write down things that you spot that might be used multiple times, or that are a real theme about Balsam Brands or about this role, something that goes towards our values or our culture, if you can type that into your chat. It can be both explicit in here or implicit if you read between the lines. So we'll give about a minute here, and we'll see some of the answers. All right, nothing yet. Anything? Feel free. You don't need to read it too carefully. Yeah, love it. And I'm glad actually that was the first one put here by Kelly, is working with other teams and employees. Cross-functional is extremely important. Yeah, working with data, problem solving, analyzing data, creative, educate, soft skills, problem solver, very good. Communication, visualization, data visualization. Yeah, this is excellent. Good. Yeah, and the cross-functional is key. That is such an important part of Balsam Brands, working with a diverse team. Desire to learn is great. Sounds good. And there was a good question by it looks like Kevin asked earlier, isn't tailoring the resume similar to studying for a test? It doesn't necessarily mean this person will be great at the job. So I want to address that, and thanks Trinity for mentioning that. So we'll back up a bit here, just kind of a little bit of a thought. It is, there is a part of it where I don't know if all 100% of companies, and it might not be 100% today, right? But most companies in the United States use the resume to make a determination at the beginning, right? And whether a person moves forward into the process. And that determination, of course, is also by logic, it's whether this person can actually do the job. Okay. Now, it didn't have to be that way. Like, I mean, if you go back in history to the first person who like wrote a resume or did something, probably the best way for that person to figure out whether they can do a job is you invite a person into the job and do it similarly for a month. what, like observe that person carefully, give feedback, and then you make a decision. And then there are probably more efficient ways to do it. Today, the way that's done, it's likely the most efficient way today, barring some new ideas or technology, is through the resume. Again, maybe there's a better idea out there in how to recruit people in, but based on the evidence, based on the fact that we have companies like Google with tons of data, HR data, that still actually use resumes, right? It is what it is, that your resume is going to be judged in order to make a determination whether you move forward. Just like schools and other things use tests. There's probably a better way. They may be less efficient. Maybe they go better towards the end goal, but also a lot of things that go towards the end goal may not be efficient. So there's always a balance of efficient business in general, a balance of efficiency and quickness in general and reaching the end goal. So it is likely, you probably guess that a person who spends the time to tailor their resume and really think through what I'm going to put here, that person may actually be more, it's likely that person is more thoughtful than a person who doesn't, right? Not necessary, if that's not necessarily true, but does that raise the odds? Probably, right? And a person who is able to truthfully, and we use things like reference checks, the interview process, et cetera, and truthfully puts the things that person has done in the past that's tailored towards the job, does that possibly or likely go towards that person actually doing a good job? Yes. Is there error there? Potential for error? Yes. Is there a better way, a better and highly efficient way for us to make a decision at the beginning, whether to move a person forward or not? If there is, I think every recruiter would love to hear that, right? And we'd love to know. But likely, this is the beast. Just like if you're at Boise State, you're probably taking tests. As much as we'd love to maybe not take the test, that is the decision that almost all companies in the United States use in determining whether or not we move a person forward. So based on that, it is probably a good idea for you to optimize what is currently used, which is the resume. So that's my best explanation in that, and I hope that makes sense to you. If we have a better way than a resume, that would be wonderful, and you should probably start a startup and don't tell me your idea. So that's my thought. Okay, let's see. Do you think you should ever remove things from your resume that you think would be irrelevant to the job you're applying for, or is it better to show variety and diversity? That's a great question. And then my answer is it depends. There's sort of a fine line between like irrelevant, don't put it on, and well, there might be relevancy to things you're doing or the company culture. So my answer here, it's kind of a soft answer, but the meat of your resume, the body with the main bullets should totally be tailored to the role. But if you go back far enough, you might have a role such as you were like myself, I worked at a catering company, and I bartended, I cleaned, I did waiting. I had fun. It was fun. I was on my feet all day. It was great. But are there things I did at that role that are valued in the companies that I want to work for? Yes. So even though it's, maybe on quick view irrelevant, it's actually not irrelevant. So I do leave it in, and I did leave it in up to a certain point, right? At a certain point, like your resume gets long enough, you have to leave something out. So then I'll leave that out now. Yeah, so the meat should be very relevant, but my suggestion is absolutely leave things in that show variety and diversity. I put in there at the bottom, I'm in symphony. I've been playing music for a long time. I put in some volunteer work I do. I keep in that I taught in the Czech Republic for a year and lived there. And the companies I want to work for, such as when I interviewed at Balsam Brands, like not only valued it, just like loved that stuff. So, if you work for a more button-up type company, which is great, then maybe it's a little bit less relevant. But if you work for a place that's maybe more has a startup type vibe, I bet you you could find relevancy, and you can keep some things that make you interesting. A different recruiter might give you a different opinion, but I love reading resumes that show who you are as a person come out, and your uniqueness. So here's another way to put it. If you applied to Balsam Brands, please leave it in. That sounds wonderful. Okay, good. What about displaying skills we learned in school but haven't used in the real world, especially tech applications and software? Now, if that's your first role out of school, your school basically was your work. So you probably want to keep that in there and show that you did that. There's a certain point in your career where maybe that becomes probably less relevant. So I would go towards relevancy and recency in thinking about that question. If you studied something 10 years ago and, maybe you can note that under your education, if that was like relevant to the role, and then imply elsewhere that you're a very quick learner, and you can put in your cover letter, you're excited to kind of get back on the horse with that tool. So just some ideas. Again, the key answer to that question, I think, is put yourself in the shoe of the person who's hiring. What would they say? What are they looking for? What do they want? And then be honest. That's how I would go about it. Okay, let's keep going here. I think we're almost out of, I want to leave some time for questions. So. I think we can go this somewhat quickly here. How to tailor your resume. Yes. All right. Look at the job description, compare it to your resume. Again, I'm kind of hammering home some points here. Match your skills and keywords from the job description. Not all bullet points are created equal. We'll talk about that in a second. And then a review. I always say you want at least 2 other eyes to look at your resume before you send in. Once you get past a few typos, people might start questioning your, attention to detail. So just a quick thought there. Okay, good. So some thoughts on this. Not all bullet points are created equal. Oftentimes, this is key. You don't really want to say, I talk a lot about the power of implication, right? You want to provide compelling evidence to make bullet points convincing. Maybe you need to multitask, or, handle multiple requests at once. Instead, you actually want to say what you did in a prior role, and that, yes, use numbers, use percentages, dollar amounts, etc. Basically, be very specific. And then I give the same advice, and when you're answering interview questions, it's the same concept. A lot of interview questions are called behavioral questions, where they're going to ask about things you did. When you do that, you don't want to answer generically. You want to answer specifically that implies what that person is looking for. And that takes practice. First place you can practice is by writing a resume that does that. Then we often get a question, say, oh, well, I've actually never done that before, right? I've never, maybe you're an entry-level person that's looking for your first customer support job, where part of what you're going to do is online and over the phone supporting of a new product, right? And you've never done anything like that before, but they say that they're open to entry level. Well, maybe you have worked in the service industry, and you have worked at a high volume restaurant where you had to work with multiple people at the same time, and work on the cashier, et cetera, and you had a couple examples of where you were able to calm down a situation where the customer was irate based on their toast being extra crispy when they wanted it just a little bit crispy. So the power of analogy is wonderful. especially for folks who are just graduating, that's what we're using, right? Like, oh, this person did this and this, or did challenge themselves in this way in school and is a quick learner, right? Yes, we can bring that person in, and I think they can learn very, very fast. And even then, be very specific, right? Okay, that is our presentation today. I'd love, let me see, I will stop the share here. I can see everybody. I hope that was helpful. And I'd love to hear any, we'd love to hear any questions. Maybe there are questions coming in I don't see, but feel free to like ask them out loud too. That's okay. Oh, we're getting a ton of questions here online. Laura, are we okay on time? I'll go through these.
Yeah, I think it's great if we can get those questions answered.
Okay, sounds good. Let's see. What about displaying skills we've learned in school but haven't used in a real world environment, especially tech applications and software? Did I answer that one? I think I answered that one, yeah. How often do recruiters call the applicants' previous employers? Yeah, that's a good question. It depends on the company, and it ranges from 0 or that wasn't a question. It ranges for some companies, which is never, all the way through for every application. So Balsam Brands, we do reference checks, and we definitely, and our candidates know that, and we love talking to the teammates' former employer and finding out what their strengths are and things of potential improvements, et cetera. And sometimes, like when we're hiring for managers, we'll love to talk to a former direct report of theirs too. So yeah, good. All right, I answered Tia's question, great. Mackenzie, opinion on a follow-up email or letter after interview and best way to construct it. And I'm assuming you're referencing like a thank you note or something of that sort. Am I right, Mackenzie? You can speak up. Okay, good. I'm going to start. This is going to be annoying, but I'm going to do it. What do you think? Anyone on a follow-up email or letter after an interview? So remember, based on what I said, because this is the key, put yourself in the shoes of the people who are on the other side. Now, with that in mind, should you write it? And anyone can answer if they want. You can.
I think yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I would say yes. It shows your ambition, and if you're sending a letter of thanks, it also makes them look at you a second time. Where the first time they go over your resume, they might glance over it and you don't stand out. But if you bring attention to yourself again in a respectful manner, I think it would definitely give you an advantage.
Yeah. Thanks, Kelly. And that's a wonderful answer. And then I will say, kind of to add to that, is some companies may make a difference, especially like usually interviews are comparative, resumes are comparative. So if you have two candidates and one of them sent a thank you and the other one didn't, that may go towards interest in the company, right? And so you should do it. And even if they don't take into account, the people on the other side are still human, and maybe not everyone does, but getting a thank you note. So even if that just kind of gets stored there, it's like, it's always nice to get a thank you note. And in the worst case, it's not read. So kind of like everything where you want to go towards putting yourself in the best potential chance. Sure, that's great to write one. And the thoughtful one is thoughtful. So, like I said, we're all human on the other side. So at the very least, it's a nice thing to do. Okay, good. Let's see. Yeah, good. We're getting some answers here too. Yeah. Yeah, I like it too. Like, I like this. Ashley says a gracious thank you and follow up to show you really want the job. Kevin, anything to get your name in front of the hiring manager. That's good. A little cold, but there's truth to that. And Tia, sending a thank you, be specific with some positive takeaways. Good. And I do want to say, just since Trinity and I are, many of us are on the other side, there's also just the human aspect. I hope people in general, you go to a wedding or you that's the wrong one, but you receive a nice gift and you send a thank you letter to someone, like I'm guessing you're sending that thank you because you're actually thankful, not just because you want that extra, kudos for next time that they pay for your appetizer when you go out for lunch or something. And we hope that there's some of that too. So please keep that in mind. It's all humans on the other side, and you know, we're all trying to make the best decisions, even if it's, you know, not always correct. Okay, good.
Any other specific questions around resumes?
Yeah, follow up. Does being a veteran give any advantage? Good. Yeah. Okay. Victor said a veteran, and you know, so we're all trying to hire a diverse team, right? And a very diverse team. You know, I'd say two ways. So, being a veteran likely adds to a company's diversity. But number two, and extremely important, is the skills and the everything learned in that part of your career is very likely relevant and highly valued by companies in many different departments. So please, yeah, I would say absolutely that should be on there. Great. Yeah. Yeah, Laura's question, I see one other question. It's not totally relevant. I can answer it if there's no other question. There's one person who put, actually this one's related. Someone put LinkedIn question mark. Your resume should, even if you customize it, should reflect your LinkedIn. So make sure the dates are lined up and things like that. That's important. Kevin says, I was thinking we need a new way. I was planning on a startup to fix the recruiting. Awesome. Ping Trinity and me once your ideas in place and you're ready to chat. So that's great. Okay, good. And how often do recruiters call applicants previous? Well, I think that's everything, right? Yeah, any other questions? I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, that was really helpful, Tim. I'm sure our students learned a lot from that. Also, Brandon, who's on this call, who's part of the COBE Career Services team, him and I work one-on-one with students to work on your resumes and to tailor them, just like we discussed today. So I'm going to throw our link in the chat here. If you want to make an appointment with us, we'd be happy to work with you one-on-one. Because as we discussed today, everybody's resume is very specific to each individual. So we're really great at helping you craft your brand on your resume. So I just put the link in there. So we welcome the opportunity to work with you. This was a great introduction, Tim. Greatly appreciate your time this afternoon. Does anybody have any last comments or questions before we sign off? No, everyone's looking forward to the weekend now, right? And we're close enough.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, awesome. Well, with that, thank you, everybody. Greatly appreciate your attendance today. And next week is the pre-career fair event. So jump on our website and check that out. And also you should have gotten an email today giving a little bit more information about that event. Great opportunity to get in front of employers and learn about internships and jobs. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.